Hi, good evening. On the red spot with a white sheep, a naked sheep. But maybe we are all sheep, and that's what my story is going to be about. It's going to be about naked sheep, and the first slide is about an awakening. So what I will try to do in the next 18 minutes is try to explain what is happening. And the first thing is, it's a story about sheep, but it's also a story about smarts. It's also a story about a tremendous switch we are experiencing right now. The other thing, it's also a story about the rise and fall of my generation. I'm 57, and we did some wonderful stuff, but we also did some wrong stuff. And the last thing is, it's a story about addiction and playlists. And you heard during the introduction that I'm very confrontational, so it's a disclaimer. Any resemblance with real persons or organizations is unintentional. And the second thing is, I'm not responsible for any mental discomfort during or after the session, and there is sufficient beer afterwards. So, let's start with the story. The first thing is, what is happening? And I think we are living in one of the most beautiful time periods of our history, because we are switching from what I call a 2D time frame, where everything was flat, which was really information shortage. And what do we do when we have information shortage, when we can't learn at home? That's when we created schools. And we had to go to schools to learn. And then we had a teacher who had all the information, told us everything he knew, and he was more smart than we were. And then we went to work for the guy with the highest degree, with the most experience. And now something happened. During the last years, we have an information explosion. We can have access to video on our smartphone. We can add information to the world. And the world is changed to something else. It's called 3D, and 3D is three-dimensional. We have a lot of information, a lot of changes. And suddenly, we don't have to go to school anymore. We have information luxury. We can find information at home. We can share information. For who is this a problem? For the guy at school. The teacher says, no, you can't learn at home. You have to go to school. That's not true. It's job protection. So what we're doing now, we are facing a switch, a tremendous switch, which I call Switch 3D, and it's really a change in our way we're thinking. It's a paradigm shift. Now, I think this is happening. We are in the next step of evolution. We are standing before the origin of 3D smarts, but first we have to understand what we are. We are 2D smarts. I am, everybody in this room is. Maybe the kids who were dancing before us aren't. But what are 2D smarts? Well, we went to 2D schools, and we listened to a 2D teacher with 2D information flow, and he was the most clever in the room. We couldn't be smarter than him, because we never had more than 100 or 10. It was impossible. School was a copy machine. The original was before the classroom, and we went out because we were less smart than the teacher. And then we went further. And then we had to learn curriculum. We had to learn every course. If we didn't pass a course, we couldn't go to the next year. We didn't succeed because we studied because the nice things. No, we succeeded to get a degree because we were able to study stuff we didn't like to study because we didn't have the passion and talent to do it. And then the final thing is, we never were able to use our passion or talents in school. Suppose you have a teacher about mathematics, and you would say, hey, teacher, my passion is about mathematics. Can I go a little bit further, faster? He said, no. Can I go to the next year? No. So what is education? Education is a place where you go and listen to a teacher who's more smarter than you are, where you have to study things which you don't like to do because otherwise you can't go to the next year, and you can't be passionate or talented because they say you can't go faster. So this is the educational system we built. And in this system, our 2D schools created the illusion of learning, but it isn't. And finally, after 57 years, I have to become 57 years to understand it. And then we ask ourselves, can it get any worse? Yes, it can. It can get worse. You think it doesn't happen, but it happened, because what happened then is we went to work in 2D organizations. And then the first thing was, they ask our degree or diploma. And depending on your degree or diploma, you get a low salary or get a high salary. And your salary was higher if you proved that you could study things you don't like to do for very long. This was happened. So, yeah, it's true, it's true. And then something bad happened, because then they put us in a hierarchy, in a department with a function description. Can you imagine what happened? So we learned for 23 years, then we went to work, and then they gave us a function description. And then they said to us, you have to do all this, it's just a task list. And after 1 year, we have an appraisal talk with our manager. And then our manager says, well, this is okay, you're doing very well, but this isn't okay, he said. And then you told your manager, but this is not my passion and my talent. And then he said, do you really think you can do stuff over here you like to do? And then he sends you to a course to do better what you don't like to do. That's what we call training plan. And if you're really unlucky and you work in a company which is really innovative about 2HR, they call it competence management. Anyway, this is the world which I've met when I started to work. And there is a terrific quote of a guy, and his name is William McKnight. He said, the former CEO of 3M, he said, if you put fences around people, you get sheep. And that's what happened. Never, neither in school, neither at work, they told us, please tell me your talent, we create passion for it and learn. No, they put our passion and talent behind fences, and now we have sheep. Every organization, there's so many sheep. Right? So what do we do with sheep? We put them in the workspace. This is the workspace of sheep. These are departments. If you have a big business unit, then I have several departments. And this is a multinational. So, and then the next question is, how do you handle sheep? With sheep management. This is your boss. And then he always has a black sheep. He is always complaining. And then you have the other sheep. I'm sure I can show this one. This is what we call in Dutch a mekkeraar. You know why? The whole day he is doing meh, 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 meh. Right? This is our colleague. And then the one on the right, he's one of the unions. Can you imagine what has happened? This has happened with us. And when we came from school, we looked like this. And 40 years later, this is how we went to pension. And this is our life. This is what we created. So the next thing is, this is human resources management. If you don't function in a certain department, they just ship you to another department. This is the engagement thing. 80% of our employees are not engaged. This is the only thing you see of not engaged employees. You say who is engaged, and then you see this. And this is a problem. Then you have stress and burnout, and at the end you have protest. People start protesting, right? They're standing on this red spot and they say, hey, this has to end. So, and then this is something I realized, and I think you have to have my age, because somebody told me once, you have to be older than 50, otherwise nobody believes you. So now people start to believe me. But we create a lost generation. Not because we wanted, but it is a consequence. It's something we didn't expect. If we pay people for 100%, we only use 20%. 80% we waste. This is not sustainable. We do the same thing with gas oil for driving. So we do the same thing with nature, but we have done the same thing with people. We don't treat people like people. No, we treat people like sheep. So this thing is very important. We talk about innovation, but our organizations create the illusion of innovation. None of the organizations, or most of the organizations, are able to innovate. You can't innovate with sheep. It's not possible. So what is happening? We need some other kind of people. We need humans. And this is the people we need. These are 3D smart. This is the next generation. Do you know why? It doesn't do meh. If your child does meh, it's genetic. You have to go to the hospital. But normally, they don't do that. So the moment you have a brain, then something terrific happens. And you know what happens is, well, that thing starts learning. And everybody who knows a little bit about learning knows that the brain makes connections. And making neural connections in your head is learning. But it doesn't happen from itself. It needs a push. So during my whole career as a professional, training manager and corporate learning officer, I've been thinking about how can we make organizations that learn faster than before. And so the first thing we have to find out which are our talents. Because what is a talent? A talent is something your father and your mother gave to you. It's the first gift. And the special thing about a talent is you can't see it. And this is what I call diversity. Diversity has nothing to do with the color of the skin. It's just paint. Diversity is the talent of everybody in this room. And it has a potential. But we have to create organizations and schools that people start knowing their potential. So we have to create an environment where people can have passion for it. Passion is the way to suffer. People with passion suffer, like an athlete. I don't know an athlete who isn't able to suffer. Suffering and passion, you can't divide. So if people tell to me, I'm passionate and I don't see him suffering, he's lying. He's a sheep. So I know a lot of people who have passion for something they don't have a talent in. That's stupidity. Okay? And if you have a talent, but nobody sees it, that's a waste. But what do you have to do? Suppose you're a talented guy and who has passion. The only way to develop it is getting access to information. And this is abundant available. We are living in a society with so much information that everybody with a talent and passion for his talent can become smart. And that's what I call a 3D competence. A 3D competence is something you have that makes you special. And everybody has his own specialty. And that makes us unique. And that makes it possible that we as a species can survive. So what is happening? 3D schools and 3D organizations should be places where talents are discovered and allowed to become a competence. And so easy it is. So what we need now, and this is something I picked up during the lecture, is we need people with pit. We need people with pit. I think it's even existing in English. But pit means, do we have passion, info, and talents? And I think, do you have pit? You have pit. So show it. You know why we have to show it? But there is something terrible going on with the world. We are facing an extinction level event. And we are sitting in the middle. And I'm going to explain you what it is. And I have a lot of discussions about degrees and diplomas, but this is happening. The first thing is, we were born in the 2D age with no information. We went to schools and got a degree based on you were able to study things that you can't like to do. And don't use your passion, because otherwise you can't go to school to 23 because you're finished when you're 18. So, and then we got our degree, and then we went to work, and we got a salary increase because every year we did the same stuff better. That's what we did. So we got a salary, and then he said the next year, okay, it's better, it's better, it's better, it's better. And then at the end we said, no, you don't earn more because you're at your best. And you know what's happening now? Because today we have so much information. And these people today, including me and all of my colleagues I've known, we really didn't have the talent, nor the passion, nor didn't we know how to learn. We went to a copy machine. We showed that we could study without passion and talent. And you know what is happening now? Now there is so much information and so much change that because my generation is lacking this pit, that we are losing our value. What we are seeing now is an avalanche of incompetence. We see an avalanche of incompetence. As you can see, like surgeons, not passionate in evolution, never had a talent, and no access to social media. How can they stay incompetent? We see dentists, we see engineers, we see teachers not passionate about evolution in learning environment, no talent to work with people, and no access to information. So what is happening is now, it's dramatic. How can you build a sustainable society built on incompetence? It's not possible. And the reason why this is happening is not because of, if we wouldn't have information, everything would be the same. But this is an extinction level event. The information exploded so much that this is what we're facing. So this is the evolution. This is what happened. First we were an ape, then we were a man, and now we are a sheep. And most people with a degree now are a naked sheep because of incompetence. So what do we have to do? So this now is a kind of a global SOS. Save our sheep. We have to do something about it. We have to do something about it. We have to stop 2D diploma addiction. I burned my degree 2 months ago. I burned it. Do you see any change? Do you see any change? And the problem is I have a degree, an industrial engineer in, I don't know, telecommunications. I can't even remember what was on it. They're still asking me my degree, so I burn it. So now people ask me, Jef, who are you? I say, just call me Jef. So what do we have to do? Well, that's something I try to introduce now. I call it my competence playlist. Suppose we invent something new, because we don't have to innovate on new energy sources. The first thing we have to reinvent is using human energy. And maybe we should start with us. Now suppose that what is a competence playlist? It's like a music playlist. What is a music playlist? It's the music that you like to play in different occasions. Now what's a competence playlist? A competence playlist are the competences you like to play. It's you. It's you. It's your competence playlist is the competence you want to play when you're working, when you're doing your hobby, and whatever. And suppose that we have a competence playlist based on our talents, based on our passion, and based on the information we learn. Then this competence playlist changes from content. The older we get, so we go to school, we learn based on our talents. We build our competence playlist. We don't curriculum. No, we choose the courses we have passion and talent for. And maybe I learn for physics and biology, and I skip languages and I skip economics, but I learn digital techniques and I learn cooking and whatever. And maybe then I will be a better surgeon than the ones we have now because they succeeded in mathematics. And this competence playlist, it evolves the older I get. But I never have a degree. And how it is validated? It's validated by my colleagues. This is what I call social validation. People will tell me how good I am. And I think this is more what we need as persons. So what do we have to do? We need heroes. This is a time of heroes. We've heard today a lot of talk about sustainability. We have heard the talk about we have to do something about natural resources. How can you do this with powerful incompetence? You can't. How can you do it with people who got a degree based on not their passion and talent because they are able to study stuff within they will not be the inventors of the future. So what do we have to do? We have to reinvent working and learning. We have to do creative destruction on our diploma society and replace it by something else that produces better surgeons, better teachers, better whatever, because it's based on their talents. So what we create is 3D schools where curriculum-free learning, where you can go in and say, hey, I have a talent and passion, or please show me my talents. And this school will be there your whole life. And then you go to work in 3D organization where people say, I don't put you in a function, you're just going to do what you like to do, what is your competence playlist. And this is what is going to happen. So what I say now is to you, no more fences. No more fences. And that's the reason why I created one heck of a sticker, and it says, no sheeping. So I thank you very much for your attention.